Revealed, the spine-chilling secrets of the world's most terrifying and forbidden cave systems. In the heart of the mountains, dark secrets lie hidden within ancient caves that whisper tales of terror. Breathtaking yet terrifying, these caves draw adventurers like moths to a flame, promising wonders but delivering nightmares. The very air shivers with the anticipation of tales long forgotten, echoes of screams and laughter, of lives claimed by the mysterious darkness. In these caverns, the rules of nature seem to warp and bend. Stories tell of entwined roots rising from the depths, glowing fungi that illuminate the walls with an unsettling otherworldly glow, and underground rivers that roar with a ferocity that shakes the soul. Inside the chasm of whispers, locals swear that the rocks themselves can talk, recounting the spirits of those who've lost their way. Subterranean landscapes shift like twisted dreams, and the faint glow of crystals seem like the gaze of watchful eyes. Daring souls have reported glimpses of ghostly figures, flickering in and out like candle flames, their intentions as unclear as the depths themselves. With each step deeper, explorers feel a tightening in their chests, as if the very cave knows their fears, amplifying them with every heartbeat. Strange phenomena abound, hollow echoes that shouldn't exist, cold drafts that slice through even the thickest gear, and shadows that move without source. Adventure turns to terror as those who enter find themselves running from unseen pursuers, or are they simply trapped in their own spiraling minds? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Back in the chasm of whispers, the silence hangs heavy, broken only by the sound of a heartbeat, not your own, and an overwhelming sense of being watched. What lies deeper within the cave? What truths await those brave enough, or foolish enough, to delve further? The chilling call of the unknown echoes into the void, grasping for its next victim. One thing is certain, it'll take more than courage to uncover the horrific secrets that lie in the pitch-black depths. As the shadows close in, the question remains, who, or what, will emerge from the darkness? The deeper they ventured, the more oppressive the darkness became. Every flicker of their headlamps cast tangled shadows across the jagged rock walls, distorting reality in a menacing dance. Max's breath hitched as he glanced around, the whispers of the cave threading into his psyche. Were those truly whispers, or just his imagination? Did you hear that? Lila asked, her voice thin and shaky as it bounced against the stone. I don't know, he replied, his pulse quickening. The tightness in his chest was no longer just from the cold, there was something more, something primal. As they moved further, the air shifted. It felt heavier, thick with an electric anticipation that raised the hairs on their arms. Max turned to the group. There were 4 of them now, all brave enough to scar the depths of the chasm of whispers. But with every echoed footfall, the camaraderie they shared above ground began to unravel, thread by thread. Jake, the self-proclaimed thrill-seeker of the group, stumbled ahead. He laughed nervously, an attempt to shake off the tension that was climbing. What's the worst that could happen, right? Ghosts and crazy mushrooms? He pointed to a cluster of bright fungi glowing eerily within a crevice. Yeah, sure. But we came for an adventure, not a funeral, Lila retorted, crossing her arms as she rolled her eyes. Yet, her brave facade wavered with each step they took. Suddenly, a gust surged through the narrow passageway, chilling them to the bone. Max swore he could almost hear whispers carried on the wind, longing for an audience. Let us stick together, he urged, glancing back at the others. Their expressions mirrored his dread as they stumbled on. They entered a hollow chamber, the ceiling towering high above, adorned with glimmering crystals that refracted their light like spectral eyes watching from the abyss. As they explored the marvels before them, Jake ventured too close to the edge of a delicate-looking ledge. Whoa, Jake! Back away! Lila shouted, adrenaline rushing through her veins, but it was too late. The fragmented ledge crumbled under Jake's weight, sending him stumbling into the dark yawning void below. Catch me, he screamed, a mix of fear and disbelief in his eyes as he tumbled into nothingness. Max lunged forward, an instinctive reaction, but it was futile. The silence that followed Jake's scream echoed like a haunting melody in the chamber, a chilling reminder of sudden despair. We have to go. Now! Max urged, panic flooding his voice. Just then, the air thickened and shifted again, and something else broke the silence, footsteps echoing from behind them. It wasn't just the sound of their own panic. These steps were methodical, deliberate. They were not alone. Who's there? Lila's voice trembled, her bravado swallowed by fear. There was no answer, only the sound of relentless footfalls creeping ever closer, the chilling pulse of uncertainty quickening their breaths. A shadow slithered into view, tall and indistinct, flickering like a fragile flame. Max's heart pounded. Was it Jake? Had he somehow returned? Or was it something more sinister, something conjured by the cave itself? Run! He bellowed, instincts kicking in as the oppressive shadows loomed larger, swallowing the edges of their sanity. They raced deeper into the cave, but the tunnel seemed to spiral, fracturing and morphing into a labyrinth of terror. Would they find a way out? Or would the cave keep its sinister grip on them forever? One thing was certain, the cave's whispers had awakened something, and it was hungry. What horrors awaited them deeper within the dark? Max sprinted ahead, heart racing, the cold stone walls closing in on him like the jaws of a beast. Lila and Sam were right behind him, their frantic breaths mingling in the tense air. The echoing footsteps still loomed, taunting, a ghastly reminder that they were being hunted. Where do we go? Sam gasped, his eyes darting in all directions, desperate for a way out. The shadows around them felt sentient, like dark tendrils reaching out for flesh. Anywhere but here! Max shouted, his voice reverberating off the walls, adding to the chaos. Every loud sound made him flinch, amplified in that cavernous space. The pulse of their panic matched the oppressive rhythm of the footsteps closing in. They ducked into a side tunnel, the walls slick with moisture. It was tight, the rocks scraping against their shoulders. Dim light danced on the wet stone, casting long, skeletal shadows. They pressed forward, the air thick and dank, suffocating. What if we're just running deeper into it? Lila yelled, her voice cracking. What if there's no way out? Max felt a wave of helplessness wash over him. He had always been the brave one, the unshakable leader, but now that confidence flickered like a dying flame. He couldn't answer her, couldn't promise safety, because he too was consumed by terror. Suddenly, the tunnel opened up again, leading to another chamber, a vast, unnatural expanse illuminated by a ghostly glow. It was stunning yet haunting, the walls lined with crystals that pulsed with an otherworldly light. But it was the center of the room that drew their eyes, a massive, gaping sinkhole, the bottom shrouded in darkness. Jake, Lila whispered, dread pooling in her stomach. The voices in her head had morphed from whispers to mournful wails, echoing the loss of their friend. What if he's down there? Sam's voice trembled, the weight of the abyss drawing them in, filling their minds with gruesome possibilities. Footsteps surged again, relentless and growing louder. The shadows, having multiplied in the darkness, seemed alive, whirling and shifting, forming grotesque shapes that teased and tormented them. Whatever it was close, closer than ever. Max glanced at Lila and Sam, their faces pale and distraught. We have to decide. We can't stay here. His heart thudded not only from fear but guilt. Should they risk a rescue attempt for Jake or flee for their own safety? Without warning, a dark figure materialized at the entrance of the chamber, silhouetted but unmistakable, a shape that made Max's blood run cold. Then came the voice, crisp and chilling, echoing through the air like shards of glass. You shouldn't have come here, run. Max screamed again, emotions fraying into primal instinct. They bolted back toward the exit, but behind them, the figure started to step closer, revealing sharp features twisted into a form that was shockingly familiar. Was it just the shadows playing tricks, or were they truly being stalked by something or someone they recognized? Lila stumbled into Max, their panic spilling into a frantic mess, feet skipping over loose gravel as the ground felt like it was giving way beneath them, echoing the breaking down of their resolve. "Go!" Max shouted, shoving them both forward as the chamber began to close in. The echo of their footfalls morphed into laughter, mockery thrusting into their veins with every stride, but deep in the cave, a loud crash sent vibrations through the rock, rattling their bones. Something else had awakened a third presence and it stirred restlessly. "Just keep moving. We can't stop," Lila cried, wheezing with exertion. The deeper they went, the more twisted and changing the cave seemed, walls shifting and contorting, leading them to obscurity. Would they escape the darkness, or was the cave tightening its grip, ready to swallow them whole? Max felt the walls of reality shift again, the cave itself writhing around them. What awaited them at the next turn? Behind them, the figure laughed again, a sound that echoed with sinister familiarity. They were about to discover that some secrets were better left buried, but it was too late now. What would be waiting for them when they turned that next corner? Max's heart thundered in his chest, a primal rhythm that drowned out everything else. Every footfall echoed like a war drum, sending shivers down his spine. Lila and Sam flanked him, their frantic breaths blending with the chilling laughter trailing behind them. That laughter wasn't just a sound, it was a promise of doom. "Keep moving," he urged, pushing through the tight passage. The shadows felt thicker now, pressing against them as if the cave itself was closing in, hungry for their fear. He risked a glance back and saw the silhouette lurking at the edge of the light, the familiar contours somehow both terrifying and heartbreakingly known. "Max!" Sam gasped, voice cracking as they stumbled over loose stones. What if it really is him? Panic boiled in his eyes, each flicker of the dim light amplifying his terror. "It can't be. It's not possible!" Max shouted, desperation rising in his throat. But doubt crept in, whispering viciously that maybe it was too late for Jake. They were all too late. Suddenly, the tunnel veered sharply to the left, revealing another narrow path that twisted deeper into the earth. A moment of hesitation, a breath held too long, then instinct kicked in, and they dove into the new passage, the cold air hitting their faces like ice. "This has to lead us somewhere," Lila shouted, a hint of determination breaking through her fear. They pressed on, the walls closing in, slick and wet as they squeezed past one another. Max felt the air thicken with dread, each breath a struggle against the oppressive darkness. Lila's voice wavered again, "What if we're just going in circles? We can't think like that." Max snapped, pushing through the fear that clung to him like a second skin. "We have to stay focused." But uncertainty gnawed at him. As they ran, an unmistakable sensation crawled up his spine, a sudden realization that they weren't alone. The echoing footsteps resumed, a sinister syncopation to their frantic dash. Then came a terrifying screech, high-pitched and unnatural, like metal grinding against metal. Max's heart stopped. It was as if the cave itself screamed, warning them of something lurking just out of sight. What was that? Sam shrieked, panic etching deeper lines into his face. Max skidded to a halt, gripping Lila's arms so tightly that she flinched. "We have to listen," he whispered. The laughter persisted, melding into the screeches, a twisted symphony of horror orchestrated only for them. Something flickered in the dim light, a shimmer that felt like a lure. It was a glint, a reflection of the crystals lining the walls around them. They pulsed with the same rhythm as the footsteps, creating an eerie bioluminescent glow that danced through the darkness. "What's happening?" Lila breathed, an involuntary shudder rippling through her. Max squinted into the light, trying to find reason in the chaos. "I don't know, but it feels alive." Suddenly, a huge, dark shape lurched out of the shadows, blocking their path, glinting eyes narrowing into slits. The familiar figure stepped forward, and terror gripped Max's heart anew. "You shouldn't have come here," it hissed in a voice that froze the blood in Max's veins. "No!" Sam cried, stumbling backward. "Jake!" The creature paused, a gnarled smile spreading across its face, revealing sharp, jagged teeth. With every flick of the light, the horror revealed itself more fully, a grotesque mockery, reflecting everything they had lost. "Run!" Max screamed, and they turned to flee, the laughter changing into something more sinister, chasing them back into the depths. But the darkness waited, thickening around them, pulling them into its grasp. Max's chest tightened as they sprinted further down the narrow tunnel. Each footfall felt like a countdown, the walls whispering awful secrets, echoing their fears. What nightmares awaited them in the heart of this breaking cave? The question hung heavy in the air as they plummeted into the unknown. One wrong choice could end it all, but just ahead, the tunnel opened once more. What could possibly be waiting for them in the next chamber? Only darkness loomed, but could there also be a flicker of hope? As they burst into the next chamber, Max skidded to a halt, nearly colliding with Lila and Sam. The sight that met them turned his stomach. A vast cavern opened up, with the walls shimmering under the soft glow of the crystal formations. But it wasn't the beauty that struck fear into their hearts, it was the grotesque tableau laid out before them. Dozens of shadowy figures stood frozen around a central stone altar, their hollow eyes reflecting the glow of the crystals, watching. The laughter had morphed into low, guttural growls, an unsettling blend of anticipation and menace. Max could feel Lila trembling beside him as she turned to him, her gaze wide with terror. "Yes, the altar," whispered a voice that dripped with sinister delight. The same voice, jagged and familiar. It was Jake, but this wasn't the brother he remembered. This was something dark, a twisted version draped in shadows. "Jake!" Lila's voice cracked, a mix of hope and fright threading through her words. But the figure before them was far removed from the warm brother she had known. "It's a trap, we need to go!" Max shouted, urgency clawing at him as he moved to pull Lila back. But Jake's laughter echoed through the chamber, reverberating off the walls, filling every crevice with an overwhelming dread. "What have you become?" Max shouted, his voice breaking as he stared at the figure. The creature that bore Jake's face grinned wider, revealing an even more terrifying array of teeth. "I am who I was always meant to be," Jake whispered, stepping closer, weaving through the other figures. "You see, they have accepted me. They've given me power. All I had to do was let go of the weak." "Stop. You're not him," Sam yelled, stepping forward, his fists clenched. It was a desperate gambit, but fear weighed him down. The laughter swelled and morphed into shrieks, echoing through the cave and drowning out Sam's cry. The figures leaned forward, their gnarled hands stretching out, beckoning them closer, as though they were puppets on strings, controlled by a sinister master. "Join us, Max. Let the cave free you. Let it show you the truth." Jake's voice was hypnotic, wrapping around Max like a coil, squeezing tighter with every word. "No. We're getting out of here," Max shouted, focusing on the exit, the narrow tunnel they came from. He grabbed Lila's arm, ready to drag her away. But Sam stood frozen, caught in the pull of Jake's words. "Max, wait," Sam said, looking back with wild eyes. "What if he's right? What if this is what we were meant to find?" "No. You can't think like that." Max's voice rose, desperation spilling over. "He's not our brother anymore." A howl erupted from the shadows as the creatures around the altar began to shift, their bodies merging with the darkness. The chamber shook, rocks crashing down from above, stirring up dust that clouded the air. Panic flooded Max's veins as he tried to stare down Sam, who still wavered in place. They were running out of time. "Please," Lila pleaded, clutching Max's arm tighter. "We have to leave. Now." Max locked eyes with Sam, willing him to see the truth. The cries of the creatures grew louder, a cacophony of torment and despair that echoed Max's internal dread. In a final moment of clarity, Sam took a step back, shaking his head in anguish. "I can't," he whispered. The words hung heavy, a final thread of sanity pulled tight. The ground trembled beneath their feet. The laughter faded for a moment, revealing something deeper, a low growl of discontent from the shadows, a promise that they could trap more than just fear. "Run!" Max screamed, yanking Sam from his stupor, determination surging as they bolted to the far end of the chamber. The creatures shrieked, a chorus of rage as the air thickened behind them. They tore down the corridor they had come from, the echoes of laughter still haunting the cave, whispering dark secrets that begged them to listen. As the exit loomed closer, a chilling thought crossed Max's mind: whatever they had unleashed here was still lurking in the depths, and it would stop at nothing to reclaim them. What other horrors awaited them outside this nightmarish realm? Would they ever truly escape the darkness calling for them? The corridor stretched ominously before them, shadows creeping closer with every heartbeat. Each hurried step echoed in the void, a reminder that the dark was not just behind them, it was closing in. Max glanced over at Lila, her face pale under the flickering light, terror etched in every line. Sam lagged behind, his thoughts swirling like the dust surrounding them. "Faster!" Max barked, pushing himself and Lila to sprint ahead, dragging Sam along. The howls of twisted laughter melted into the background, drowning beneath their fear-fueled momentum. But still, each corner turn felt like an invitation for the darkness to pounce. With one final push, they burst into the narrow shaft they had entered from. The light at the end felt impossibly far away and dimmer than before. Yet, they had come too far to turn back. "Wait!" Sam's voice pulled them to a stop as he stumbled, catching his breath against the rough stone wall. "We need to think." "Think? Now?" Max snapped, barely restraining his anger. "There's no time for if we run without a plan they could cut us off," Sam interjected, eyes darting wildly. Jake was different. He's changed. We can't underestimate what he's become. Lila's eyes filled with unshed tears. "You think we can save him?" she whispered, doubt weighing down her words. "What if he's lost for good?" Max swallowed hard, wrestling with his own heart. Could they really save Jake? Or were there parts of him that should be left in the shadows? The air grew thicker, dampened with despair and dread, threatening to choke them with the weight of their choices. Before he could answer, a sudden rumble trembled through the tunnel. The earth shook violently, throwing them off balance. Rocks crashed down, blocking their only escape. Panic surged through Max as he glanced back, expecting to see the grotesque figures now fully unleashed from their altar, ready to swarm. "We have to go up." He pointed to a jagged ledge above them, barely visible through the dusty haze. "If we can climb out, maybe we can get to the other side." Max, Lila began, fear forcing her voice to tremble. But he wouldn't listen. "Now!" he yelled, urgency spiking. He grabbed Lila's hand and began to scramble up the wall, fingers clawing at the stone. Sam hesitated, that familiar conflict flickering in his eyes, but the impending threat offered no luxury of choice. As they climbed, the rumblings intensified, sending debris cascading from above, scraping dangerously close. The figures were gaining ground, their shrieks piercing through the chaos, an insatiable hunger driving them onward. They reached the ledge, the narrow escape seemingly within their grasp. With a final heave, Max pulled Lila up first, her terrified eyes mirroring his own frantic heartbeat. Sam was right behind them when a deafening roar erupted from the depths below, a monstrous sound that reverberated through the cave, shaking the very ground they stood on. "Go! Go!" Max urged, pushing Sam ahead of him, his heart pounding as the shadows clawed at their heels. As they clambered over the ledge, a blinding light broke through the chaos, illuminating a pathway that branched off into another chamber. The dazzling brightness felt like a cruel twist, but escape was instinct. They had no choice but to plunge into the unknown, but as they raced towards the light, an impossible thought dug its claws into Max's mind. What if the brightness concealed even darker truths? What if the cave had not relinquished its hold, but simply tightened its grip, luring them further into the horror? In an instant, they crossed the threshold, light washing over them like cleansing water, but the joy of escape was short-lived. Before them lay another altar, eerily similar to the one they had just fled, but this time the figures surrounding it were not frozen. They were watching, waiting. Max's heart sank. Had they truly left the darkness behind? Together, we can't let it take us, he said, clutching Lila and Sam's hands tightly. The shadows drew nearer, and every instinct told him they were running out of time. But as the figures began to emerge from the light, one word echoed in his mind, a bitter reminder of their brother's haunting voice. Join us. What new horrors would this chamber unveil? Would they find a way to fight back, or were they ensnared in a fate worse than death? The figures closed in with deliberate slowness, their skeletal forms illuminated by an eerie glow. Max's grip on Lila and Sam tightened, as if sheer will could shield them from the encroaching malevolence. The humidity wrapped around them like a suffocating blanket, as if the cave itself was alive, breathing in unison with the shadows. What do they want? Lila's voice trembled, barely a whisper. Her eyes were wide with fear, darting from one figure to another, searching for answers. They want us to join them, Sam murmured, a shiver running down his spine. But we can't give in. Max's heart raced, pounding in time with the cacophony of whispers surrounding them. Each figure's gaze pierced through the dimmed light, elevated by their elongated limbs and contorted smiles, a grotesque parody of humanity. In that moment, he caught a glimpse of something in their eyes, an unsettling familiarity. Jake, the name escaped his lips as if it was a prayer. Suddenly, the memory of his brother's laughter echoed in his mind. He felt the weight of their shared moments, the fun they had, and the brotherhood that felt so far away now. Had his brother really transformed into this monster? Max. Lila's urgent voice cut through his thoughts. We need to move. She tugged at him, snapping him back to reality. The figures began to inch closer, anticipation blooming in their hollow, sunken faces. Something primal within Max screamed to flee. Run! He yelled, yanking Lila and Sam into motion. They sprinted toward the far end of the chamber, but the path twisted unexpectedly, diverging in multiple directions. Which way? Lila asked, panting hard as they skidded to a halt. There. Sam pointed to a narrow passage on the left. It seemed less illuminated, shadows lingering ominously like sentinels guarding a secret. But time was not on their side. The laughter of the figures behind them intensified, a warped symphony that echoing in their ears, beckoning the doubtful to stay. Max darted forward, leading the charge through the small opening. He squeezed through the tight space, breathless, knowing full well the escape was merely an illusion, but desperately praying for safety. The walls were jagged against his skin, a reminder of the chaos surrounding them. They emerged into another chamber, this one vast and cavernous, the ceiling lost in darkness. Stalactites hung like jagged teeth, threatening to sever them if they weren't careful. The air was heavy here, thick with an almost tangible dread. Max, what if we can't find Jake? Lila's voice trembled, fear shifting to despair as the gravity of their situation sank in. We will, he promised, though doubts gnawed at his mind. He needs us. He has to be here, somewhere. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught Sam's attention. He squinted into the shadows that danced at the far end of the chamber. Wait, did you see that? A figure was shifting, obscured by the darkness, but it felt strangely familiar. As they took tentative steps forward, the figure emerged, body drenched in shadow, features obscured by a haze. An electrifying recognition surged through Max. Jake. He shouted, hope igniting with a desperate intensity, but the response was not what he had anticipated. The figure turned slowly, revealing a face twisted with agony and a darkness that emanated from him like a black hole. Why did you come back? Jake's voice slithered through the air, filled with despair. You shouldn't have come back. The world around them fell silent, the creeping shadows pausing as if waiting for the verdict, the moment that could seal their fates. The chilling realization settled in Max's gut. Jake, no. He stepped forward, heart racing. We can help you. But his brother's hollow laughter echoed in response, filling the chamber with a sense of dread that pierced through their last thread of hope. What if there was no way back? The question loomed like a thundercloud, waiting to break. Max felt a shiver run down his spine. What was this? Had they ventured too far into a darkness that claimed souls, leaving only husks behind? In that instant, a single thought crystallized: would they join Jake in his despair, or fight against a fate that felt increasingly inevitable? Max, we have to choose. Lila's voice quaked. And as the darkness tightened around them, he realized they were at a crossroads, one that would require an impossible choice. In a world where hope flickered like a dying flame, what sacrifices would they make to save a brother and themselves from the abyss? The tension hung heavy in the air as they faced the heart of their nightmare. Max's pulse thundered in his ears, drowning out the twisted laughter that spiraled around them. Jake's once familiar face, marred by anguish and darkness, hung like a ghostly shroud between hope and despair. He felt Lila's grip tremble against his arm, the warmth in her touch swallowed by the chill of the cave. We can't give up, he whispered, though the words felt hollow. He was trying to convince himself as much as them. Jake, please just tell us what we need to do. Jake's eyes, once bright and full of life, were now vacant, pools of torment that reached out for Max, beckoning him closer into the void. You don't understand, his voice cracked, only adding to Max's dread. This place, it changes you. It takes your soul. Then we'll fight it. Sam shouted, stepping forward. His defiance hung in stark contrast to the trembling uncertainty that filled the air. You're still in there, Jake. We believe it, you can fight back. The laughter paused, replaced by a heavy silence that seemed to absorb any flicker of hope. Jake's expression shifted, a war waging behind his sunken features. But the shadows drew closer, almost seeming to respond to his turmoil, weaving an ominous dance that coiled around them, tightening the noose of despair. Stay away. Jake's voice echoed, frantic and desperate, sending shivers racing down Max's spine. You don't know what they'll do if you stay. They'll take you. Max. What do we do? Lila's voice quivered, her wide eyes darting around the cavern, searching for an escape that felt more elusive with each passing second. In that moment, Max caught sight of something, a flicker of silver nestled in the dirt at Jake's feet. He bent down to retrieve it, feeling the weight of the small object in his palm. It was a pendant, tarnished but unmistakably resembling a family crest. This was ours, he felt an electric jolt course through him. Jake must have dropped it. Jake's gaze hardened, filled with a sudden urgency. You shouldn't have touched that. It's a marker. It draws them closer. Then we use it. Sam shouted, his voice rising above the discordant whispers now growing louder, almost hungry. If it's a marker, it might guide us out. No. Jake's scream reverberated in the chamber, a raw plea filled with both sorrow and fear. The shadows surged forward, their skeletal hands reaching out, hungry for the light. You don't know what you're inviting. Max felt the air thicken around them, electric. Stay strong, Lila. He commanded, holding the pendant close to his chest. If it's a way out, we have to try. They clung to each other as the figures wriggled closer, their shrieks morphing into a cacophony of overwhelming noise. He could feel the dread wrapping around them like a living thing, tightening until breath became a battle. Focus. He shouted over the din, raising the pendant higher, the light glinting as it cut through the shadows. The figures recoiled, confusion flickering across their distorted faces. Help us, Jake, please. For a fleeting moment, something momentarily sparked in Jake's eyes, a flicker of recognition, a yearning for freedom. "You must trust each other," he said slowly, his voice barely audible now above the chaos. Max locked gaze with Lila and Sam, understanding dawning between them. What had to be done wasn't just about Jake. It was about them all facing the shadows together or being devoured one by one. With a collective breath, they shouted, "Together!" As they surged forward, the power of their unity shining brighter than any darkness that threatened to envelop them. In that single moment of shared resolve, the chamber quaked. The shadows recoiled, screaming in a chorus of discontent, like a raging storm grasping for its victims. But something was shifting. The cavern walls trembled, the ground beneath them pulsing with energy as they pressed further into the darkness, clinging to the light within. Would they find their way out, or would the shadows imprison them all? The question hung, suspended in the flickering glow of the pendant, as they plunged deeper into the chaos. As the walls shook with their collective fear, an ominous voice echoed behind them. "You will all become one with the shadows." And in that chilling proclamation, hope and dread clashed, spinning them toward an uncertain fate. The ground trembled violently beneath them, ripples of energy pulsating through the very air. The shadows, once just dark shapes, transformed into twisted forms that clawed at the edges of Max's sanity. He tightened his grip on Lila, feeling her heart race against his side, the warmth of her body a small comfort in their frigid surroundings. "Keep moving!" Sam shouted, pulling them forward as the shadows hissed, their whispers turning sharper, more insistent. "That light! Use it! We can't stop now!" Max held the pendant high, its silver gleam flickering like a heartbeat as they plunged deeper into the cave's maw. It was like running into a storm, the darkness swirling around them, a living, breathing entity that sought to snuff out their light. "Jake!" Max called, his voice cutting through the air with desperation. "Fight them! You're still in there, show us the way." Jake's eyes flickered, battling with the encroaching shadows that tugged at his mind. I don't know if I can hold them back," he gasped, his breath ragged. "The deeper you go, the more they'll want to keep you." With every passing moment, the shadows lunged closer, and their laughter echoed like nails on a chalkboard. Max felt the fear wrap around him like a vice, but he pushed it down. They had each other. They had the pendant. They could not lose hope now. "Trust each other!" Lila yelled, her voice strong. "We can break through together." The shadows hissed, vacating a small tunnel just ahead that faded into pitch black. It felt like a promise and a threat all at once. "This way!" Sam yelled as he began running, leading them into the darkness. The air thickened, a tangible malevolence closing in as the last remnants of light flickered around them. Each step became heavier, the weight of the shadows pressing down on them, choking out breath. "Stick together! Focus!" Max managed to shout, despite the growing unease thumping in his chest. The pendant pulsed in his hand, guiding them like a lighthouse in a storm. Suddenly, the walls began to shimmer with ghostly images, flashes of memories, faces from their past, moments of joy twisted with anguish. It was like the cave was feeding off their fears. "Sarita!" Jake blurted out suddenly, eyes wide with recognition. "They're using your memories against you. They want to break your spirit. Let them try," said Sam, gritting his teeth as he clenched his fists. "We won. Back down." Just when that surge of defiance seemed to push the shadows back, the air erupted with a blood-curdling scream that rattled the walls. Max stumbled, panic shooting through him as the pendant flickered violently. The shadows writhed, shrieks morphing into chilling laughter, mocking their resolve. "Vanish," the ominous voice echoed, deep and resonant, sending chills clawing down Max's spine. "You're nothing but shades." Yourself. A blinding light burst from the pendant, engulfing them. Max shielded his eyes, gripping Lila tighter. The shadows recoiled, their screams warping into a cacophony of rage and terror. "Run!" he yelled, instinct taking over as he felt the pull of the light draw them toward the heart of the cave, they charged ahead, but there was no escape from the looming dread behind them. The darkness surged, chasing, clawing at their backs. In that moment of chaos, everything turned surreal, the air thickening, time stretching as they navigated the treacherous twists of the passage. Just then, they fell into a small, glimmering pool of water, its surface reflecting an impossible scene, faces of lost souls emerging from the depths, their expressions distorted by fear. Max gasped, realization striking him. They're trapped. We're not the only ones. The revelation sent a jolt of horror through him. Were they too on the verge of becoming another loose soul in this nightmare? He turned to Lila, needing to believe they could still break this cycle. Stay focused. Max shouted above the whispers closing in around them. We need to break free or we'll be lost forever. But the shadows stirred, ready to finish what they had started, and in the eerie stillness, they felt it, a heart-stopping pause, before the whispers started anew, this time weaving a chilling truth. Choose to fight or be consumed. Max's heart raced in his chest, the weight of that choice pinning him like a heavy stone. What sacrifice would they have to make to escape this darkness? As the echo of the voice faded into the chilling depths, uncertainty loomed, and an unsettling question settled in the air. Would they embrace the shadows or find the strength to defy them? The shadows danced around them in the dim chaos of the cave, a whirlpool of dread and despair. Max, Lila, and Sam stood together, bound by fear and an unyielding resolve. The pendant still glowed in Max's hand, pulsating like a heartbeat, a beacon amid the encroaching darkness. Fight it! Max shouted, desperate to pierce the thick veil of fear that shrouded Jake. The time for doubt had passed. They had to believe that within that darkness, somewhere, their brother still fought for freedom. Jake's twisted form loomed before them, and for a moment, a flicker of recognition sparked in his eyes, battling against the shadows that sought to drown him. You don't belong here. He cried, as if his very words were pulling against the suffocating grasp of the cave. Then help us find a way out. Lila's voice rang with determination, shattering the suffocating silence. We're not leaving you behind, Jake. We're family. Suddenly, the shadows erupted, howling in protest, their voices growing more frantic, morphing into an unnerving chorus of anguished cries. Max felt the reverberation in his chest, raw and unsettling, but he stood firm, locking eyes with Jake. I'll never abandon you, Max declared, raising the pendant higher. Together, we can fight this. We won't let them take you. The shimmering light from the pendant flared, illuminating the chamber, pushing back against the shadows' attempt to gag their courage. With each ounce of strength, Max felt a warmth rise in his chest, a pulsing bond they all shared. This was not just about fighting the darkness, this was about family, a connection so deep it echoed through the terror. I am here. Jake gripped his head between his hands, as if warding off tormenting voices. But you don't understand what I've seen, what it wants from you. Max stepped closer, never breaking the connection. We can face it together. Please. The weight of his brother's sorrow hung heavy in the air, but he refused to step back. Courage surged through him, igniting the unyielding bond they had shared long before darkness had seeped into their world. With a deep breath, a thought came rushing back. What if we break this connection? The pendant, it could be our way to fight back. Max glanced at Lila and Sam, recognizing they had each seen something in the shadows, a glimpse of their fears, their regrets. Jake, if we each confront what we've been hiding from, we can turn this around. We can reclaim our light. The shadows hissed at their defiance, whipping around them like a cyclone of torment. Chloe stepped forward, her determination sharper than ever. You're still in there, Jake. Fight them. We fight together. An unstable grin spread across Jake's face, battling terror with flickers of hope. Together, he echoed, as if remembering the warmth of their love. The shadows howled again, screeching with the rawness of lost souls. The chamber began to shudder, and cracks wormed through the stone, spilling light seeping in from the fissures. Now. Together. Max urged, clenching the pendant tightly between them. They closed ranks around Jake, lean and ready, hearts pounding as they prepared to charge through the ever-thickening fog. "I remember," Jake whispered, his voice faltering but steady. "Family home. Then it's time to take it back." Lila shouted, raising her voice over the onslaught of chilling whispers attempting to drown out their conviction. The chamber rocked around them, darkness writhing as they burst forward with renewed determination. Max swung the pendant high with every ounce of their shared past, the love, laughter, and warmth that defined their lives now crashing head-on against the shadows. The illuminating light poured from the pendant, banishing the darkness with every powerful pulse. It was as if the air, thick with dread, began to thin under their resolve. The shadows screamed as they were pulled back, pulled apart by the light, their ghastly forms gasping against the power of unwavering unity. Then they saw it, a sliver of the exit, cloaked in blinding light, illuminating a path littered with remnants of what had been lost. Jake's form stood taller against the shadows, slowly being unbound from the twisted tendrils that sought to hold him hostage. The shadows disintegrated around him, clawing desperately to take back what they had lost. With a final defiant roar, Max, Lila, and Sam surged forward, arms stretched wide, heartbeats synced in a collective rhythm, a battle cry for freedom. The cave trembled one last time before the light surged forth, a tidal wave of brilliance sweeping through the darkness, illuminating the truth, the love of family conquering all fears. In a flash, they were out of the cave, tumbling into the open air, the sunlight pouring over them like healing rain. Jake collapsed beside them, gasping for breath, the warmth of the sun bathing his face, a warmth he thought he had lost forever. "We made it," Sam breathed, disbelief mingling with relief. Tears streamed down Lila's face, laughter replacing fear, a chorus of gratitude echoing off the cliffs behind them. Together, they held on tightly, no longer defined by shadows but by resilience, courage, and the bonds that had once threatened to shatter but now stood stronger than ever. In the distance, the cave glimmered ominously, but they had shattered its grip. No longer were they haunted by darkness. They had emerged, embracing the light of a new day. But there was one final haunting echo as they turned away from the cave, a reminder that while the shadows may linger, hope had found a way to shine brighter than the deepest abyss. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss any of our next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel.